This is part 2 of trying to get the Sharp QT12 Boombox from 1983. I think it said on the inside going. If you saw my earlier video, you'll know that the problem with this is that the tape function was dropping the right channel, well, dropping the left channel, the right channel from my perspective, the right speaker here. And so just to show you what's going on, we'll turn down the volume, turn on the radio, and both speakers are working. And the radio is working fine. I was having some trouble with it, but it has a bit of a feeling like there's some capacitors waking up in it. And certainly on AM it's working very well. On FM, the AFC is a bit over energetic, but that's probably just part of a design. Okay, so now we have a tape in, and we'll hit play. Oh, it would help if I had it on tape. All right. And I'm getting trouble with the tape, so let's put it in like this and see what happens. There we go. And at the moment, I'm getting just about nothing. So, just about nothing from both sides. So it doesn't appear to be this switch, which I did clean previously. And let's pop that out, and let's see why. Yeah, so I just didn't have it all the way into the cassette counter still working. So that leads to the suggestion, especially since it's getting worse, that the problem might be one of the switches inside here. It could be the record switch, it could be a variety of things. It seems less likely something like a capacitor issue or something that's been broken, because if one side's fading in and out and the other side's out, yeah, that looks more like an opportunity for this stuff to do its job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. I'm going to take my tape out before I forget. I always like using a pre-recorded tape for this sort of stuff because at least I know the tracks are kind of okay. I don't have a deck that's good enough to trust for alignment. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to have a look. We're going to get at as many switches as we can and see what's going on. So just a reminder for this, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws on the back, if I remember correctly. I think they're all the same with maybe one exception. I didn't actually, in the earlier video, go over, it's got some mic-in connections here. I don't believe these are active, but it's interesting that they reused the two, like the mono style plugs there. This is a beat switch, right, which affects recording off of an AM carrier. So I've got the tape out, and what we'll do first is we'll give, these don't need a spray, they're fine, all the pots seem okay. But I'm going to spray, here I'll unplug the speakers for a moment. I will want them back in later. Okay, so we've got this switch here, which is, if I remember correctly, that's the stereo switch. That seems to be working fine, but we'll give that a spray. This one is questionable. I can access it through here. And this is the FM AM switch over here on the tuner. That seems to be working fine, so I'm not going to touch it. The next switch, we have the power switch here for the tape, right? So when you turn it on, you see that little switch closes, right? This is the pause. That's a bit sticky actually. The pause lifts the pinch roller off the tape so it doesn't turn. I'll just have a look at the connections to the heads to make sure that they don't appear to be problematic, and they don't. I'll have a look with a magnifying glass. And I mean, I'm assuming the wiring is probably all right, but that's what we'll do. So what we'll do to start with is just take the old contact cleaner. This is non-lubricated, so you can make a fair mess with it, and it doesn't really matter. And we'll get in, we'll pop the little LEDs out of the way, and they can get in. Right down here is the cassette switch. I'll give that a good go. You want to be a little careful with this stuff because it's non-lubricated. You can therefore remove the lubrication, which could be a problem. All right, so what I'll do is I'll put the power on and we'll see if that's made any difference. This is fairly safe to use with the power on because it's got an enclosed transformer here. Well, not enclosed completely, but it does have reasonable separation between the primary probably here and the secondary there. There will be tracks on the board that have 110 volts on them, or maybe it connects directly in here, I'm not sure. Some devices of this area have fully enclosed transformers that are wired directly to the power in. Okay. So we're getting, well, let's try the radio first. Oh, not going to work if I don't plug in the speakers though. Okay, let's put them over here like this. Sorry, getting notifications on my phone at the same time. That seems to be normal for when you're trying to do stuff. I'll just move this as far out of the way as we can here and still manage to get the speakers plugged in. All right, so let's make sure that the radio works.
In 13 days, but that might be it. Steve Locke is CIO for Fixed McKenzie Investments.
The Bank of Canada will be vigilant against inflation. They have not projected a return to their inflation. The midpoint of their inflation target range is 2%, but they do project for 2024 down inside of 3%. So they expect that it's going to be continuing.
Okay, so we have both speakers working. I've checked. Irritatingly, there is a balance knob, which is not a terribly useful thing on a radio like this. But we're going to give this a little spray here. And again, my reaction to this deck is that it's actually got a lot more hours on it than it looks like. Okay, so the problem persists. So cleaning this switch doesn't appear to have done anything. So the problem is not in that switch. It's unlikely to be in this one, which I think only affects the radio. So therefore, we're going to have to get into the cassette mechanism, which will involve lifting this out again. And that's fairly easy on this radio now that I've done it once. We'll need to remove a few screws, and then we can lift the whole radio and the cassette deck should lift up inside the radio frame, if that makes sense. So we'll loosen this screw here. Now this is the one where I think a previous attempt at fixing this has broken a pillar, and I may attempt to glue that. I've got it saved. Let me just see if I can lift the screw out. Yes. Now, remember, the upper screw is the long one. Lower screws are... And now, the cassette mechanism should lift out from underneath. We'll just have to undo the tape counter. And there we've got the cassette mechanism accessible. Now this lets us do a number of things, apart from... I'll get this belt out of the way. This lets us do a number of things. It lets us clean this, which is the mode switch. So we'll give that a squirt through all available ports and give that. That does feel like it's cleaning up. So that might have been part of the problem. And then I'm going to have, so if I look at the tape head, we've got, this is presumably the ground, those two terminals of the head are soldered together and solder into the shield of this cable. And then we have a separate right and left coming in, and that goes off. That's this blue cable, I think. We can see where that goes and see if we can check the continuity of it. Yeah, that's the blue cable right here. So I'll also clean the contacts of this, although I've done that before, and we'll check the continuity on all of these just to make sure that that this cable and the head are is not the problem. Yeah, this is the microphone, one of the two microphones here. The other one I think comes in. Yeah, it comes in. So these are the two mics coming in here. That's the head. It says head right on it. Thank you, Sharp. This is the radio connection in, which is fairly complicated for the radio board because the switches are all over here as opposed to on the radio board. Somewhat unusually. The only switch on the radio board is the band switch here. Well, presumably because there'd be too much interference for running the band switch over there. I did want to see on here if we could see where the amplifier is. There must be an amplifier chip on here somewhere, but I think they're on the other side of the board. Well, that would make sense that they're on the other side of the board. So, yeah, this looks like it might be designed for a second tape deck because there's the same kind of plug here, or maybe not. Maybe an alternate radio connection. Anyway, there's a chip of some sort here, vertically mounted. I don't see any dip sockets, and nor do I see, as I was thinking about this the other day, nor do I see any discrete transistors, but they've got to be on the other side of the board. But I would rather not have to take that out. Okay, so let me check the continuity on the tape head, and there aren't any other switches on this mechanism, I believe, just this one. This should only get pushed when it goes into record, so then there's a little cam down. Let's see, can we see that? Yeah, probably this. That pushes against this and puts it into record mode. We can check by, where's the release? Yeah, so now it's in record, although it's not, because now it's in record. So you can hear the difference. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's still in play until I actually push that. I'm sorry, it was in pause. Record, pause. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, let me stop it. So, I touched the two pins and got 60 cycle hum in both the left and the right channels. So everything past this connector is fine, including this. So maybe before I do anything, let's plug it back in and see what we hear. Maybe this solved the problem. Here's the tape. Oops. So, that appears to have solved the problem. Cleaning the record selector switch. I'm going to give it another quick go, and then I think I'll clean the tape head since it's easy to do while this is open, and then we'll button this back up, and we'll talk a little bit about one of the other things that I'm thinking of doing with this, but I may not, and I'll explain why I may or may not in a little bit. And maybe in the comments you can tell me whether you think it's a good idea or not. All right, so let me do that, and we'll see if we can get this working. So here's the pillar that's damaged. Doesn't look like anyone tried to glue it. Here's the piece I found inside the case, which it looks like it's been viciously over-tightened. But this is my assumption, or someone put the wrong size screw in it. Yep. You know what they did? They put the big one in here, broke it off, and then swapped it. This cements my notion that someone's been in here before. But I'm just going to super glue that in place, and just so that the whole thing has a little bit better support. It's not worth trying to do anything more complicated than that with it. Well, the new tube of super glue, that one's glued itself shut. Anyway, nothing complicated here. You could try ABS welding with this stuff, but I've never found it held for anything like this. So, okay, after a bit of futzing around, I've got it in place. We'll give it a good squeeze, and then give it a moment to harden up. It's already, of course, glued to my finger, but that's normal for this. So while I'm waiting for the super glue to dry, I'll give the heads a quick clean. This is just 70% isopropyl alcohol. I prefer 100, but hard to get. So the heads really themselves usually don't need cleaning. The thing that needs cleaning is the pitch roller and the capstan. There's the capstan. Not too bad. The pinch roller, on the other hand, is Pretty gross and pretty dried up, actually. So this will take a little while to get it off completely because it's so dirty. Okay, I've cleaned out the tape head, and I just want to show you the amount of dirt that was on the pinch, not on the head, I mean on the pinch roller. Quite a grungy thing. And as I said, if you look at the head, you'll never be able to see this on video, but there's a lot of wear on it. The roller looks like it probably hasn't been cleaned in its lifetime, but it seems fine. So this should be all dried up now, and I can put this back together. So what we need to do, we have a few things we need to do here. We need to plug the tape mechanism back in, and I will need to put the belt back on for the tape counter right here. There's the reset arm, right? Well, clever little mechanism. This all plastic, nothing very fancy about it, but and nice to have. Okay, here we go. It's back in. I haven't put the screws in yet. Just making sure it's all lined up. And then I'm going to plug the speakers back in, which I unplugged once again just to have a little bit more room to maneuver the case around. There we go. And so we'll put a tape in once more, make sure both channels are working, and if that's the case, then I'll button this back up. So I'll do that, and then I want to come back. Oh, well, I also need to put the belt on the tape counter. And slide this back into place here. But this is small stuff. That goes right there like that, and the cable gets pushed down there out of the way. It's got a little slot. The cable routing on these things, it's kind of important because there can be interference issues with them sometimes. Okay, so I will come back and I want to talk a little bit about what I might do with this and the advantages and disadvantages of doing that. So let me put it back together, check that it's working. We'll maybe adjust the alignment again and see how it goes. All right, all the screws are in. The tape deck seems to be working fine. The fast forward is skipping a bit. Probably one of the little wheels is a bit glazed, but that's fairly low on the priority list to worry about, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. We have a working tape deck. Both channels work. Yay. So this is now fully working except for the auto stop, which in the earlier video you'll see that I circumvented, and that's the broken bracket. I didn't take it out of the bag before, but I'll show you that a crucial piece of some sort of cam has broken off. There, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, this is not working, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get it fixed. So, tape deck works, no auto stop, we'll manage. So the second thing I want to talk about here today is possibly a future project with this, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to do it or not. And that would be to add Bluetooth to it. I've gotten in a bunch of these little Bluetooth boards, which I ordered from AliExpress. Tried this one out, and it works fine. It takes, if you can see here, 5 volts in, and it gives you right and left and ground out. It's got a built-in antenna. I think there's a little LED on it. It doesn't matter. This isn't great. You can hide this anywhere. And in here, what you would do is you would insert it into the harness here somewhere once you figure out where the right and left from the radio are. And you'd use one of these to control what's going on with that. Now what this is this is a double pole, triple throw switch. So you can switch right and left and power, so positive, right? So you could switch the audio here, but you could also turn the power on to this little board. And so, you know, this little board's very small. You could stick, the switch could go here, right? No problem. And this board could be stuck more or less anywhere, preferably near to the outside. If you were to put it here, you could, you know, mount it up here somewhere underneath the front. Or, I mean, as long as you kept it away from the power transformer, it wouldn't really matter too much. You could put it here if you wanted to, which then makes locating the switch hard. So I'd prefer to put it over here. Anyway, that's what you could do with that. But let me explain the problem. The problem is that this takes 5 volts, and this gets 9 volts from batteries, or it's got an unregulated AC power supply, so it's going to peak up at 12 volts or more, right? Which is obviously not going to play well with this. The trick to dealing with that would be to add a regulator. This is an LM3171. I've used these in a previous project. This is totally overkill, obviously. You could put it on this. You probably wouldn't need any other filtering because, as you can see, there's a lot of filtering built into this already. We've got quite reasonable capacitors here, and we've got some electrolytics in there. So we could always add filtering. So you could stick this in, but you would need, it needs the resistors in order to set the output voltage, but you could do that just dead bug style and, I don't know, stick it on the back of this with the appropriate resistors probably. That would probably be my approach to dealing with it, and then you can do it. But, you know, that's certainly an interesting modification for this. The other option for a radio like this that you don't want to touch the inside of, and I don't want to try to put a lithium battery or anything in this, I don't think. At least not right now. The other thing you can do is you can get USB devices, it's probably the same board as this, in a cassette form factor, which goes in, then has a little head that pushes up against this head, and would let you use it with Bluetooth with any cassette deck you happen to have. And much as I really want to kind of make that modification, I think that that might be a more practical solution for most people's use in this sort of thing. So I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do. I'm leaning towards doing this because I've got all the stuff, and there is enough space in here to do it, I think, without too much trouble. We'll just have to hang this board out here somewhere, but I don't think that will be too much of an effort. And yeah, I'll show you one more picture of this working, and then we'll call this a finished project. The radio is all back together. Let's put it on FM stereo and turn on the radio.
Bad news. It's a make whoever else it is. Some things are very Maury in the Huntington Square Plaza.
Valley Restaurant, Parker Street. Discover your...
Okay, that's working fine. We could do stereo wide.
When driving this summer, and give space to workers and farm equipment. Hi, it's Derek from the Niagara Federation of Agriculture reminding you to make sure it's safe to pass.
Oh, he reminded me. It's
Loaded with great Canadian.
It would more likely be on FM stereo if it was actually on FM. Okay, so we have FM. We've got the stupid stereo wide thing. So we have a working radio. Let's put it back on tape. We'll eject the tape. Put in the dire straits again. Hit play. Oops.
Me and my mate, we think you're great.
So, tape's working fine. A little bit of wow and flutter. As I said, I think these are new belts that somebody else tried to put on it. So I think the belts need to work in a bit. And give it a few hours running, see how that works. I want to thank at FMZPlayer1 who commented on my original video on this and suggested that it might be the record switch, and he was correct, or she was correct. That's exactly what it was. So, appropriate to thank them for suggesting that possibility. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know if you think I should modify this, or maybe I should try one of those cassette things and see how it works. I mean, it is a very pretty radio, and it is kind of a shame to keep going into it. So we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching.